Hello, everybody. Patrick Day here, Artistic Director of Young Actor Space. I am so excited today because I'm joined by one of our talented alumni, Efren Ramirez. Efren is best known for his role as Pedro in the cult classic film Napoleon Dynamite. His career has spanned over 25 years with over 100 credits in film and television. Most recently, he can be seen as Felipe Guillermo in the series Perpetual Grace Limited on Epix, which came to me last year through a friend of mine, one of our fellow actors here, and I went through the roof with how excited I was about that particular show. But Efren has many shows under his belt, and I want to welcome him. Efren, welcome. Thank you for being here, sir.
Hey, hello, muchachos.
Well, it's lovely to see you since you've been haunting the halls here at Young Actor Space, and we've been doing these interviews where I send out 20 questions and pick 10. So I'm just going to start throwing them at you, and I just want to hear from you and see how you're doing these times.
Yeah.
We will start with, what is your favorite book?
It's tough because I read. I'm a nerd. But I will say the first thing that pops in my brain is a book called The Miraculous Journey of Edward Tulane. I don't know if you know that book.
I don't.
It's about a rabbit made out of porcelain, and throughout the chapters, he gets tossed around from family to family, and he keeps breaking, and there's a stubbornness to him, and he's trying to figure out what life is really about as he travels the world. And what we come to understand to the chapter, throughout the entire story, is that the heart keeps breaking, and that's okay, because no matter what, we still have to lead with love. And to me, without love, then what do you got?
I totally agree. We often talk about, in acting specifically, the best actors, what you see in their work is love. They're coming from a place of love, even when they're playing a not necessarily nice person. But to me, that's what attracts me to good acting. So I totally see what you're saying with that. I haven't read that book, but that sounds fascinating.
Yeah.
Next question. What actor's work do you love and why? Speaking of actors.
There's so many. Well, we're living in a time now where things have changed once again. When I entered acting as an actor myself in the 90s, I feel like in the 90s when I entered acting, yes, acting was, we did some great films, but it wasn't as compelling as it is now. And I think now, because there's such a diversity, and there's so much opportunity, whether it's on TV or online or on theater, or at the movies, there's so many different styles and people have been studying acting, and the art of cinema has changed. The art of storytelling has changed, and because there's so much more, I think it's important that we remember what the art of storytelling is. As artists, we have a responsibility to fill that character's world and to live in that world and live through that story. Find that inner conflict. And actors like Daniel Day-Lewis does it. Actors like I just saw another actor a film yesterday called Savages, and that's with Philip Seymour Hoffman and Lauren Linney. So, and they're both remarkable, incredible. It reminded me of a play called a play written by Neil LaBeouf, because it's talking about the inner struggles that one has to get through life. And for actors, it's not about the exploration, but the inner pain that one has to face. And great actors know how to do that. And Philip Seymour Hoffman knows how to do that really well. Just like Joaquin Phoenix, he looks at material objectively and recognizes what it is, and then you accept it, you allow it, you live through it, and discover what happens, and that's how it becomes something of exploration, and that's a beautiful thing for artists.
Agree. Yeah, it's what we're talking about is the human condition and being able to tap into that universally, and how do you find your way into that character while still touching people that you've never met, but making them feel like either they're your best friend or worst enemy, wherever they are.
Yeah.
And back in the '90s when we were doing this stuff, the old adage of film being king and television being furniture and theater being God. I've seen that evolve in my time because we have these incredible shows that you can do now in television and in all these other different formats of getting entertainment out there. So we're not as limited as we were back then.
Right.
Gives us more opportunity to explore different ways of the human condition. I mean, you think about it, even, at some point, cavemen were putting on plays, and you think about what they were going through without air conditioning and heaters and food, but there was still time for art.
They had no popcorn.
Well, we talked a little bit about being back in the '90s. So tell me, when did you know you wanted to be an actor?
When I find out, I'll let you know.
You're still debating it, right?
Yeah. I like the fact that I didn't even look at these questions. So my initial reaction to these questions are. So,
I love
it. It's still debatable, honestly, because I work on projects and I go, why do I put myself through this? Whether it's being accepting myself as an artist, or accepting myself as an artist in the business. They're two different things, and in the business, you have to have a business mindset and an understanding of not only the role you play, but who you're dealing with. But as an artist, as I in between, even after Napoleon Dynamite, I'll go to acting schools and I talk to students all the time, all over the country. And I tell them very clearly, I make it very clear that there's a difference between acting for the art and acting in the business. For the art, you could play any role you want. The art will embrace you. It will love you because it cannot exist without you. When it comes to the business, it doesn't matter. If the director has a son, that guy's going to work, not you. So, you got to accept that. You go in, whether it's an audition or on the set, and you do what you do, which is the work. If you honor the work, then it's all that matters. And it's tough. It's not easy because you're an artist. You're painting. You're working with the imagination. You're working with the analytical thought and theory and structure. And you're even though you know what's gonna happen in the end, you have to live in the moment as if you don't even know what's going to happen. And that's the challenging part. And to do it again and again and again on a 50 millimeter or a 95, when you're working on really tight lenses. And that's the greatest challenge, to able to do that in such a way where you're exploring the unexplored. And that's a beautiful thing.
Exploring the unexplored again and again for the first time.
Yeah.
But depending on what take it is or what.
Why, God, what?
Those moments on set where you're looking around and you're just going, look at all these adults playing like we were children again. We're all sort of playing make-believe in a beautiful way. So.
Yeah.
Speaking of being on set, scariest moment? Scariest moment on set?
I worked on a no. Oh, good. I'll tell you. The show that I'm on, Perpetual Grace, where I play a guy who wants to become an astronaut. And in preparation for that, there's working on a set. I was working in Boston at the time, and then they called me and they said, "Hey, listen, we need you on set tomorrow." I thought, all right. So, so rather than flying to LA and preparing, I didn't have anything. I was like, okay, let me go my emails, grab my stuff, my script, my history, and my notebook with the character, and I go, okay. I go, all right. So, and I prepared the scenes, and when I flew from Boston to New Mexico, I got to New Mexico, and the night before, it's like, because you get to New Mexico, you arrive in Albuquerque, and then you have from Albuquerque you have to fly to Santa Fe. I mean, you have to drive to Santa Fe, which is about an hour long, and the time difference and everything. I got to my place like almost midnight, and I had to memorize, my scenes and my lines, and go get into your head again into that world. So and it was a very important scene. And then finally, when I show up to set, I meet with one of my friends, longtime friends, and we start to talk about the scene. And she goes, "I can't wait for you to do your monologue." And I went, "What are you talking about?" And she was, "Oh, shut up, Efren. I know." I'm like, "Yeah." And so I get the little the little booklet that they give you, right? And as I'm flipping the pages, the scene is completely different, and I'm going, "Oh my god!" And there's a chunk of piece going, "I'm seeing this." So, and then the PA knocks on the door, makeup, and she goes, "Okay, Mr. Ramirez, you got 15 minutes." And I'm going,
Yeah.
I go, I'm nearly having a heart attack. And I'm thinking, I don't know these lines. Yeah. So I asked, I go, "I beg you, let me have 2 cups of coffee, black, tall, in my trailer. And I just mean, I need to be left alone."
Yeah.
But it was so cold because it was snowing. So they were drilling these sheets onto our trailers just so that we could stay warm, because I was freezing in my trailer, and I had to break down my lines and going, okay, here's my beginning, here's my middle, here's my end. What's the scene about? Okay, what do I need? What do I want? What do I have to do? What do I want to do? Okay, what can I investigate from the other person? All right, what the heck am I talking about? Do I know my lines? So there was so much distraction, like, and I said, no, focus. But go with this coffee, go. Okay, go. And I analytically broke it down. And then I remember Luis Guzman was going, "Hey, Papi, you need anything?" I'm like, "Dude, right now,
Silence. Yeah.
I love you, right? But right now, right now." And then my C partner, she was, "Don't worry, we're gonna be driving to the set, so we're gonna be okay." And I go, "Oh, cool." And in my mind, as I'm working, I'm going, "Oh, that I bought myself some time." I didn't realize the set was a minute and a half, far. We just get in the car. And we just didn't want they just didn't want us to drive in the snow. So I'm like, okay. So I get to the set. I'm going, oh, everyone's like cold and they had the hot chocolate. I'm sweating because I'm going, oh, can I do this? So it's like, we're like, okay, so we did the same, and the writers and the studios are very specific. This is the tone to this project is everyone lives in secrets. So it's sort of neo noir, and the camera really to really follows you in such a way where the story is so enriching, and I didn't know, um I didn't know if I could pull it off, and I was like, okay, cool. And we did a couple of scenes, a couple of shots, um and I was messed. There was a moment when the first time I did it, I messed up the entire monologue. The second time, because there was a one shotter, and I'm like, because there was no cuts. And when really cuts, you get to really get into it. No, it was just one take. I'm thinking, oh man, okay, and then you had the extras too and all that, so you can't mess up. So I remember I was like, in the second take or third take, we're doing it, and I start getting to the monologue, and I'm doing it, and inside I'm proud of myself because I'm doing it. And like, you're doing it, yeah. But because I got out of it being proud of myself, I completely forgot the line, and I went, no.
Watching yourself doing it, like, hey,
Yeah,
great job.
you idiot. I was looking at my ego. Shut up. No.
Those moments.
Yeah, so I had those moments, and then but by the hands of God, I will tell you, I literally was saved because we were doing another take, and right in a take, we were doing it. I was so into it, and then lightning, thunder, and they go cut, and I go, why? It was so good, and they go, no, because nature calls. Right, we can't. The generators are gonna explode. And I go, all right. So they gave us a sort of like a 5-minute break, but in that 5 minutes, they used the girl to do another scene. And while she was changing, I went back, I went to the back and I started to, look at my scene again. I go, okay, I got it. All right, that's it. And once I understood the scene, I was like, okay, cool. I go, let's do it. And then it stopped. Lightning and thunder had stopped. So they told the girl, they go, change back into your original scene, wardrobe, and then you would finish the scene. And so she came back, and we were doing it, but it was, as we did the scene, and it was good. And the director goes, do you have any notes? And I go, yeah, let's watch it again, watch the playback, but let's do another take because I'm not feeling the intimacy. And they're like, huh. So they saw it, and they go, what do you want to do? And I go, wait, just give me a minute, yeah? So I told Dana, I go, come here. And I held her hands, and I stood really close to her, and I go, let's just breathe. She's okay. And it put us into such a level. And I go, okay, now let's do the scene. And so we did it, and they're like, that's it.
Yeah, right.
It was a beautiful, beautiful scene.
Isn't it those moments where you have to really, almost in a weird way, force yourself to relax to get to who you are, and that can be trying. Like you said, you're trying to learn this monologue. They're probably running Makitas or DeWalt's to drill to protect you from all this. Plus, that can be very challenging if you're working on another project. Suddenly you have to walk into the shoes of a whole other character. I imagine, was that your first day?
No, it had been, it was like, because we shot between the month of November all the way to February for the series.
Okay.
So, and you didn't, and because my character's a recurring role, I didn't know where he was going to be at.
Right.
And the schedules were different because of the weather. So, and the rewrites and everything. So you didn't really know what was happening. So, so anything can happen. And I just thought I had some time. And
right.
they flew me straight from Boston, straight to set. And I go, and I thought, okay, I'm prepared for chaos like that, but I didn't know the calamity to showing up to the set and going, here's your new theme. This is your rewrites. Like, oh man, and it's you just gotta toughen up and do it, and that's it. That's that. Don't complain. Just do it.
Just do it. Yeah. Here's more dialogue. Thank you. How dare you? Right.
Yeah.
All right. Worst or best audition, or both? Any thoughts on that?
Worst audition. I mean, the worst audition. I guess part, when executive producer networks, after I had done a read with whoever, and they're like, "Hey, we voted for Pablo," and I went, "Thanks."
Yeah, I appreciate that.
Yeah, like what? Yeah. Like Pablo Escobar? You talking about? I'm not related to him. Yeah, I'm not Colombian. It's always tricky, and you go, okay, how do I handle this? And we've gone some to, so I'm sure, I mean, you're an actor, you know, anything and everything can happen at an audition, and it could be a nightmare, but you are responsible for your actions and for your reactions. You go in and you can observe something new in that room. You know, Al Pacino talks about how there's going to be an audience, and when you walk into the room, that's your audience, and your audience may either love you or throw tomatoes at you. so,
Right.
so you know, you still got to continue on doing your work. Um, uh, I'll talk about my, you know, one of my best auditions. Um, was when I was testing for a pilot called Monsters of God. It's a post-civil war and takes place in Texas and New Mexico. Um, and I had been going to callbacks, and they asked me to do it. I mean, I did all these 8 scenes and all in English. And at the callbacks, they're like, "Can you do it in Spanish?" And I go, "Okay." So I did it all in English, and then I did all in Spanish. You know, and I go, "All right." And they go, "Well, you can be testing for network," and they started asking you about what your ideas are with the character and all that. And I knew that my character he was half Mexican and half Comanche. So and it was loosely based. So it gave me the freedom to create this character. Now, mind you, I will say I was doing a play in the summertime. I had been doing a play called "In a Forest Dark and Deep" about a relationship between a brother and sister, and the sister had committed murder, and the brother's lack of life and feeling lost and oblivious to this utter pain that he has inside that's eating him up, at, even to the moment when he wants to make out with his sister. It's just like, oh, but that allowed me to find something about this character in Monsters of God, and not only emotionally go there, but to analytically learn that this guy is half Comanche and go, all right, he's gone such trauma. And I go, let me do these things in Comanche too. So I went on the internet, I called my friends, and I started to learn Comanche. So I did all my scenes. When I went to tests for the major studios, I did it in English, I did it in Spanish, and they go, "Mr. Ramirez, anything else?" I go, "Yeah, I could do it in Comanche if you like."
Oh,
What? So I go, "Yeah." I go, "Let's just go." So we did all my scenes in Comanche, and that's how I, you know, through the major networks were like, yeah,
yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah. And and it's the show, the pilot, was shot by Rod Lurie, who had gone to like Fort Knox and everything, and he's a director who knows about war. And when he created this pilot, it was the gruesome uh, terror and horror and pain and loneliness of post-Civil War between the Native Americans and Union soldiers and people who lived in those times in 1867. And it was so intense that the studios they didn't pick it up because it was too much. Yeah, they wanted to lighten it, and he's not a director who would do that, you
Yeah.
know.
Well, how do you tell that story and lighten it?
Yeah, yeah,
You
yeah.
know, yeah, of course. I recently read a book called Black Elk Speaks. Do you know this one?
No, no.
Oh, you might really love it, especially as avid of a reader as you are. It has to do with that around that time period. Black Elk was basically a medicine man, and
Yeah,
he got interviewed by this poet who came and spoke his language and transcribed what he had gone through during that time period. And
yeah,
it's so you might want to check that one out. You might dig that. But again, putting in the work will always make you feel better about your auditions because, as you said, we don't have control over that once we go in. All we have control over is the amount of work we put in leading up to it. You
yeah.
you ever regret not taking a role? Is there anyone out there that you're like, I should have done that, or I would have liked to have gone out for that?
Do I regret not taking a role? Uh, no,
Good.
No, no, no. Even it's again, you when you ask me that, yeah, because in between working in films, I still do plays, you
Right.
know, and because that's the best schooling. You know, that truly is the best schooling. Going up on stage and memorizing, pounding those lines, and going, let me explore that because it will make your work better. You know, Denzel Washington says that you become really good at whatever you practice. If you practice your work, you get better. You know, you could study Shakespeare, you can get a degree in the theater, yes. But if you don't practice it, then what's the use? You know, I have a diploma on my wall, but what's the point? No,
Right.
do the work. Um, when and I've gone through some plays, you know, whether comedy or drama, you know, from Daniel Debussy to Beirut to Tracers, about the Vietnam War, and then this one in the Forest Dark and Deep. When I had done that play, I didn't. The first couple of weeks, it was good. It was good. The audience was ripped apart. And it's not like I'm proud of like, look what I could do. No, I was like, I was allowing myself to go through that. I think the last week, something happened to me. You know, there was a block, and I chose not to open myself up to that anymore. I don't want to. I don't want to go through what all that pain and misery with my sister, with my life, and it just felt ugly. And I remember the director saying, "Open yourself up and just allow." And I'm like, "Sure." Like, yeah. And it was Patrick. It was, dude. It was so bad. There's bad, and then there's worse, and then there's like just deport them out of the planet. And then there was me. So, it was like no, but because I couldn't put myself through that, and I started to feel regret, like maybe I shouldn't be acting, maybe I shouldn't. I can't go to that level. I don't. You know, you start to feel that grossness, and I go, that's okay. You know, there have been harder things in life, and you'll be all right. You know, we face it with auditions too. You know, you go, why do they treat me like? And I go, no, that's on them.
That's their thing.
That's
Right.
their thing. You know, and whether they're good people or they're narcissistic, whatever that is, that's not my business. You know,
Right.
my business is to be able to walk into that room and go, here I am,
Have a
and
part.
let's do the work. Yeah. So you know, but for the most part, I don't regret. Uh, um, there are some roles that were offered, and I go no, and I still stand on my ground. I'll say no to that, and I'm okay with that.
Yeah. But
Yeah. Even I think the last show I did was in New York. It's called Helpsters on Apple TV, and it played and it's okay. I'm gonna tell you right now. One of my dreams was to work with puppets. I've always wanted to be on Sesame Street, you know, or like Electric Avenue, right? So when Apple TV they called me up, they go like, "Hey, listen, you know, we were creating a show, an episode, and we want to see if you want to do it." I go, "Well, what does it consist of?" Well, they go, "You're gonna be singing and you're gonna be dancing with puppets. Are you okay with that? I mean, we understand you're an actor." What? What? Every day, yeah, and because I play my harmonica, right? There's a harmonica, and I go, I can learn that. Are you serious? And I go, yes. So in the episode, I'm singing, I'm dancing, I'm playing my harmonica, I'm
great.
with these puppets. I'm going, this is, and they go, you don't mind this? And I go, are you kidding? I never want to leave the set.
That's awesome. Yeah, it's like Christmas. You know, you get a gift. It's a gift.
And I'm going, I'm getting paid for this.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's great. What does you had mentioned directors? What does a good director give you, other than open yourself up? I mean, you know, it's like that idea of like when you go into casting, like more energy, and you're like, I can't.
And more,
Not a
more
real
energy,
Yeah.
more energy.
No. Where does the energy come from? Where does the opening up come from? A good.
a good director when he go a good director gives me an enema. No, I'm kidding. You know, I mean, I have some every time you ask me a question, like because I've been trained in a young actor space, the rules of improv pop in my brain right away. And I go, what does a good director give you? He says, 1, rule, have a relationship. 2, never deny. 3, don't ask questions. 4, be seen, be heard, listen, and respond. 5, go to an object. 6, use your senses. 7, don't beat your fellow actor. 8, no expletives. 9, have an exposition. I mean, I go on and on and on. High status, low status. I mean, there's so it's drilled in my brain, you know. And you go, okay, and that's just the beginning. That's just let's go through letters and alphabets. Why not? So I mean, there's so much. There's so sitting, standing, kneeling, right? I mean, come on. Let's go. What was it? The taxi driver, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it goes on and yes, but I mean, there's so much. But anyway, moving on. What's the question of a director?
What does a good director give you? A good director.
Oh, a good director. A good director gives you a sense of teamwork, because you really need that partnership between the director and the actor. You know, it's a bridge where you're both creating. He will allow you to do that, but even as you do it, a director is on the sidelines shooting it and seeing it, and he is creating himself, because he's gonna really shape how he wants to tell the story through his eyes.
Mm-hmm.
My job is to allow to live in the story through the character's eyes, for whatever that is. And there's a mutual marriage agreement between you two, and a trust in that. And that's where you can acknowledge that he's a beautiful director, or she's a beautiful director, because there's a, you know, you have that the allowance to enter this blank canvas, and with an understanding if it's plot driven or character driven. You know, you got to be very clear. Are you supporting or are you leading? If you're not clear on that, then you can really destroy a story, and that will hurt not only your work as an actor, but it will hurt the story itself. You know, and you don't want to do that. You want to go in with a clear vision of what that is, and to the point where you're so specific. And a good director, you know, recognizes the art of storytelling through the lens. You know, and it's that allowance where you get to have freedom.
It's interesting because what you're talking about, I think, is mutual collaboration. You know, you got somebody on your side who's sort of driving you forward, but also giving you the space to do your job. And that is a fine dance, I think. You know?
Yeah.
So that's very interesting.
Yeah, I had a director ask me, you know, after I did a scene, you know, he goes, "How did you do that?" I go, "Do what?" Whatever you did back there in that scene. And I go, "I don't know." It was you. Because you start to, you know, there's circumstances, you know, that are very kind of light, and some of them are very, very heavy. But because you've been drilling the work, it's the work should never be seen. And something happens, and you allow that, you know, and you goes back to trust and honoring that space. You know, if you don't have that, then what the heck? And it's tough to do when you're at an audition, or when you're going to networks, or doing a screen test, because it's a test. And when you put on test, you're like on the hot seat. But as long as you remember, you do your job, you're going to be okay, no matter what. Whether you have one audition a year or 1,000 auditions a year, doesn't matter. Do your work.
You know, you've talked about how you keep going back to theater, which I love. I'm so glad you're bringing that up. But have you had those moments where you come off stage and you're like, what just happened? You're almost in a different, In sports, they call it being in the zone. In acting, we call it being in the moment. But there's this feeling, but it's like, I don't know. Have you ever had to go on stage sick where you have a cold? You show up, and then suddenly the cold is gone while you're performing. And then the moment the curtain's down, the snot comes back and you're sick. I don't know.
Yes, yes, that has happened.
It's a real experience, isn't it?
Yeah, I had done a play called Cheaters, and I was totally sick whatsoever, but because I was in love with my fiance, and and one of the things I did was like the Meisner technique, you're taught about activities, and you have a time frame, and you got to really listen and respond. So what I did was I created a list of 25 things that my partner loved, she wished she had. So on stage, I bought all the things and I put it on stage. So wherever she looked or wherever she opened up, she found something surprising and new all the time.
What a gift!
And yeah, and just because she was just like surprising and more in love, it made it harder for her to leave me.
Yeah.
So if you know the play, and I was sick as a dog, but once it happens, the curtain goes up, and you're like, all right, and you live, you believe in that moment, and then it becomes something beautiful, and she didn't want to leave, but she had to, because that was that, and I didn't want her to go so mad, and that's what made it so frustrating. It was funny to the audience; they were dying of laughter, out of my pain and my anger. Like, what the heck? I thought this was perfect.
Yeah. But it could be that they're uncomfortable too, and those reactions. It's like, that's not what I'm expected, but that's absolutely the right reaction.
Yeah, right.
Worse when it's just silent or coughing. Let's be honest. Martin,
oh, when you have like 5 people or 6 people as audience, and you're like, cool.
Yeah, we've got them outnumbered backstage. On those shows too. Martin Landau said, I think it was Martin Landau years ago, I heard a quote from him that I thought was wonderful. He said, the difference between theater acting and film acting is when you go, or television, when you go television film, it's like having appetizers every day. But when you go do a play, you're having a 7-course meal every night. You're literally taking the character on a journey from beginning to end, as opposed to just dipping into different windows of their life. And I thought that was such a great way to.
Wow. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, that's absolutely right.
Isn't that beautiful?
Yeah.
I wish I could take credit for it, but he said it, not me. A couple more questions, and I know you're busy. I'll let you get out of here. What were you always supported as an artist by family, friends in your career? Were you one of those guys that was lucky enough to have that? Because that's a rare thing, if that is the case. Uh-oh.
No, I wasn't. I wasn't. I want to say yeah, by my puppet friends. So no, you're. Look, man. Even having to go Young Actors Space, I had sometimes when I first started, I didn't have a car, so I had to take the bus from East LA, and it sucked. Because when you guys would go home, I'd have to okay, I got to take the bus. So go down Van Nuys, and then from Van Nuys to Ventura Boulevard, go all the way into the hood, and that was it. And then when you get home, everyone would be asleep because they all had normal jobs.
Right.
I was going, what am I doing? Why am I learning this? Why am I doing this?
Oh man, I don't think I ever knew that. I wish I would have known that. I would have given you a big hug, man. I had no idea.
No, but you did, and let me explain, and let me tell you how. Because even as I think about it, it's even the moment when you show up on stage with a drink, because you always you would do that. Stefan would talk about that,
Yeah, yeah,
but being in that room with all of you guys, that you guys were trying, even when we failed miserably on stage, but we were still doing it. My favorite game to this day is the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
great.
I mean, it's like it allows you to create so much, but it was me finding my own center of what I love to do and wanted to do. Again, I didn't know much about the business, but I knew this is where I wanted to go, And at the time, I was still going to I was going to college,
Yeah,
and I was even learning theater in college. It was different from Young Actor Space, but to be able to merge them together and going, oh, there's something even bigger and greater.
yeah,
And part of it, I mean, I don't blame my family. I really don't. It's that they didn't understand it because it was something different.
right.
You're taught to do what you're supposed to do, which is have a 9 to 5 job and work like that. And it's not traditional. You're Latino. I'm Latin. I'm like, is there gonna be any work for me? I'm going for homeboy number 5, orderly Holmes. So and I go, wait, but why can't I learn Shakespeare? Why can't I learn Brecht? Why can't I learn Sam Shepard, Tennessee Williams, Neil Simon, Neil Simon,
You
John
mentioned
Patrick
Natalie
Henry.
Boone from Beirut. Yeah, I mean, how
Yeah.
challenging was that? The nudity, because I did that role too. That's a gritty, beautiful role. But
Yeah.
now that play, how much does that play resonate with what's going on right now?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I've been thinking about that play over and over, going, we could redo that right now. Although no one's coming to theater right now. But yeah, I think that is so beautiful. Just how you describe that, and I do
Yeah.
think, look at how you're changing the world, man. Look at how
Uh,
just you being a part of this industry, people are seeing how that's opening up, and we are seeing that all over the place. And at that time, I bet that was very difficult and challenging when you're going out for homeboy number 3 constantly.
yeah. And but you see, again, it was the business, and because there weren't many roles that were written for something positive.
Right.
So, but Hamlet was positive, Romeo was positive, and to be able to do the work, from going to Young Actor Space, and from Stephen Hayes to Dan Harden to Gary Spatz, yeah, we learned that, and we're like, okay, each teacher is different, and I'm gonna pull something good out of that. From me studying Meisner to Shakespeare to Strasberg to Udo Hagen to Chekhov, you really learn the work and you learn the craft, and I those are, my teachers were the ones who pushed me. Even Seven pushed me, on stage. He was like, "Is that what you want? No, do it again. No, more. Go again. More." Yeah, and it was because he gave me the opportunity. Because my teachers gave me the opportunity, and yeah, I took the bus out there and I went after it, and that's the thing. That's the difference. And you're like,
Showing
okay,
up. You were showing up.
yeah,
Showing up, putting in the work. And
yeah.
you read and take as much as you can what works for you. It's a personal journey. And if something's working for you, take it. And if it isn't, brush it away. It may come back to you at a different point, be it
Yeah,
or Spolin or whoever.
yeah. And I do want to point out something like I had to, because even to this day, I have this, and this is my very first notebook, right? Of a Young Actor Space, and if you could see that, where is that?
Yeah,
Here.
January 16th, 1995.
Yeah. Right, like, stay real. Don't ask questions. Strangers at a bus stop. Like, this is my very first notebook. And I'm like, okay, because gotta write. Seven goes, gotta write notes, guys. So, and I go, okay, cool. And then it got bigger, and now I have like a pile of the work. Even as we talk, I have charts like on my wall here, cue cards, about the professional self, character traits, lead characters, rules of life and wants, the writer's journey into the writer's mind, the laws of vices and virtues. Because not only as I'm an actor, but I'm an actor, writer, producer.
Right.
You know, because it is possible. And I directed a few shorts already, and I go, okay, get into it and do it all and learn it, so that even when you walk into an audition or you test, you get to understand what the level is and where you need to be and how much you can go, because then you get to honor the work and realize that it's about the work, not you. It's about the work. You make it about the work always. That's my teacher, Laura Henry, said. She goes, the work is number one. You're number two.
Yep.
So you remember that and you're good. You know, and if you fail, I'll let you know. Well, yeah, get back up on stage.
And then you never walk out feeling terrible if you've done the work, because you can walk out. We had a pretty well-known director here a couple of years ago, and he's, you know, also an actor, even though he's more known as a director. And he said, you know, when I auditioned for Hamlet, he goes, I put in so much work that on the day I go into that audition, no matter what happens, I'm walking out going, hey, I got an opportunity to perform Hamlet for the people that are doing Hamlet. I should almost be able to put that on my resume because it feels good just to do that. That's a difficult thing under the guise of the weird audition process, which has always been weird. And I don't know if there's a better way to do it because it's so crazy. But to focus, go back to it, make it about the work, you're always going to feel stronger as an artist.
Absolutely.
Last question, and then I could go on and on with you. But last question, what would you like your grandchildren to remember about you when you're gone?
My grandchildren. I don't have children yet.
I know, but it's
what would I want my grandchildren? What's the question? What do I want them to remember about me?
Grandchildren to remember about you when you're no longer here.
That you're gonna suck, but it's okay. Go out there and do it anyways. You know, everyone has a job to do. Get to work. Life isn't fair, but that's okay. Lead with love. You know, be honest. Be responsible. Have respect. Have self-respect. You know, remember that you life has tension, but you gotta find your intention. You gotta put attention, and you gotta add extension with love.
That's beautiful, man. That's great. That's all I got. This has been such a joy. I'm so glad you took the time to talk with us today. And I also have to tell you that what was so exciting for me as a teacher, after having done this as long as I have, I never got a chance to tell you this. It was only a few years after your career started to take off that I would walk into my teen classes and they'd have pictures of you on their shirts, on their t-shirts, walk into the theater. And I never said a word. I just sort of quietly smiled in my heart. But every time they'd have those vote for Pedro, you know, and Napoleon Dynamite blew up. And I was just like, this is so cool. Because it was like I blinked. We were on stage working out. And now you're here. And your energy is here. And I'm seeing all these teens walking around. So I just wanted to let you know that. That was just one of my many highlights, being able to sit in this chair and do this job for as many years as I have. You've been with me for a while.
Thank you. That's the coolest.
Well, keep up the good work. Again, Perpetual Grace Limited. Are you saying maybe there's going to be a second season? I don't.
We'll talk about that, but because I'm wrapped up for another series, and I'm writing a feature film. You know, there's a lot of projects, and I'm at the point now where I could say yes or no to a project, and I appreciate it. You know, as an actor, the young actor in me wants to go yes to everything. I'll do it all, but you can't. You can't. It's work, but you can't do it all. And I understand that we're under quarantine, but like a studio had told me, like, if you say no to this project, well, Mr. Ramirez, what would you like to do? And I thought, the possibilities.
Right.
Hey, I want to do this. You know, and because I've worked for many years, I've befriended many directors and producers and actors who have just given me great advice. You know, there was, you know, I must say, you know, I was at Sundance maybe back in 2007, after Napoleon Dynamite, and I just finished doing a film called Crank. I played a transvestite, really funny. I remember sitting in between Steve Buscemi and Daniel Day-Lewis, and we're talking about the business, we're talking about the work, and I'm going, is this really happening? You know, and they were just giving me great advice about acting and the work and the industry and what the responsibilities were. And then Catherine Kinney comes up, she's like, oh my God, I want to dance with you. And I'm like, oh, whatever. Yes, Your Highness, whatever you want. You know? So along this journey, I've been given some great advice. And I remember that, you know what? They're on that same path too, because they keep creating it. So for me, being able to say, I can create too, you know, and it'll get better. It allows me to trust that and tell great stories, my stories, you know, on the craft that I know.
One thing that has not changed in 25 plus years, and this is something that I saw from the young Mr. Ramirez, passion, drive, and kindness. And that has served you so well, along with your work and your career, I think, because that has not changed from you. I knew that the first moment when you walked through these doors. We could feel that. So that young Mr. Ramirez on that bus, we're going to pat him on the back today too, because I think that's so important. I mean, look at where this career, as we talk about terrible auditions, but look at the moments like you just talked about in life, where your shoes have put you in certain rooms around certain people that you probably never thought as young Mr. Ramirez, you might get that opportunity. And look at what's happened. It's a celebration, man. So kudos to you. Kudos to you. And we will talk soon. All right.
You got it, brother.
All right. You have a wonderful day.
Okay. Take care, Pat.
Take care, man.
All right. Love you, man.
Love you.